Hey guys, welcome back for an all-new episode of the Facerocker Podcast. I'm podcast producer Benji Dolly, and I'll be gearing you up for today's episode, which, by the way, was brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to build a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Head to squarespace.com today and use the promo code FACEROCKER to get 10% off at checkout. Before we get going, I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of what's happening on the channels this week. Head over to Rocketjump 2 and you can catch Freddie and Jimmy Wong and their adventures at this year's VidCon on the latest This Week at Rocketjump. True to This Week form, it's hilarious, it's dark, it's twisted, it takes you where you least expect it, and we think you guys will get a kick out of it, so make sure you check that one out. Head over to the Rocketjump Film School and you can catch friend of the family and VGHS cinematographer Jon Karmen as he teaches us how to use the sun to our advantage when lighting outdoors, especially when strapped with minimal resources. Jon loves his work, he's a true professional, he's a master of his craft, and he made a fantastic, informative, and entertaining video, and we think it'll really help you guys out that are out there working on your own film career. So check that out. Anyways, you're here for the podcast, so we might as well intro this thing, right? As you may know, Metal Gear Solid came out this week, and that's a big deal here at the office. So of course, Matt and Freddie have risen from their edit dungeon. They're back, and they're here to talk Metal Gear Solid, and they brought head writer of Borderlands 2, head writer of Rocketjump the show, and he's also now a published author, especially on the Metal Gear Solid subject, Anthony Burch. And these guys talk about the new game, and especially what Metal Gear Solid has meant to them in their lives growing up. And it's a fantastic conversation. I think you guys will really dig it. It's pretty funny, and it goes really deep, in depth into a subject that we think you guys will enjoy a lot. So we hope you enjoy the podcast. All right, guys, welcome back to another Facerocker Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Freddie and Matt back in the building.
Yes.
Where have you guys been?
And another part of this building that's slowly being constructed.
We were working on
You guys are busy, right?
We're trying to cut. Yeah, we're locking those shorts.
Exactly. And we're joined by Anthony, who you've been busy doing the exact same, right?
Sure.
Still busy.
Up and just surfing Reddit and coming up with ideas for shorts and stuff for a hypothetical future in which we do more.
Anthony actually has been joining us out in the back alley where Eli has gotten.
As you can see, we pulled Anthony straight from the yard.
I was getting swole.
Yes, Anthony was in the relentless pursuit of swole.
We have to enlarge in his office because he's just getting so big.
He's getting
right
so
now.
large, all the protein shakes. But Eli got this weight set in the back, and that's kind of become the thing that the guys are doing, which is just around 5 o'clock every day. Everyone looks around, it's like, yo, we do this, and then just a whole bunch of dudes go out and attempt very poor form lifts while Eli.
Well, I paint miniatures.
Yeah,
and Matt paints
Matt's
miniatures.
painting miniature. Jamie has knee sleeves on.
Yep.
Like, he looks like a dad. His knee sleeves, I'm pretty sure he wears them under his work clothes. And he like Superman, he rips his stuff off. He's wearing his IU gear, and he's like, let's get a pump. And he grabs Anthony and Eli, and they just go for
He
it.
pumps us. He just uses his dumbbells.
He grabs you guys for curls.
Well, that's actually what I remember reading. So there's this guy who's like a natural bodybuilder, and he is like, this is what you can look like if you pump it. And by the way, you look at him, you're just like, this guy's using steroids. Like his neck muscles have neck muscles. His ear just goes to his shoulder. Like that one of those guys. And you're like, that's not natural. I've seen the Olympics. Yeah. That's what natural looks like. But his whole thing was just like he had a whole thing on like how people in prison without weights, because weights represent either weapons or a problem for guards in prison. How did they get swole in prison? And it is using other people. It's like squats. It's just like you start with the lightest guy and you work your way up. Yeah. Like bicep curls is like you do this with a towel and
Buddy
another guy
push-ups.
holds it down so that another guy's getting a workout at the same time.
Plyometrics.
Yeah.
Classic.
Benji's well familiar with that all the time.
Benji's just preparing if he goes to prison.
That's my dad in our basement dungeon of torture. We had wrestling mats and training. Like, he loved towel workouts.
Yeah.
We had a partner. You grab a towel. You both use a towel, and everything you do is resistance based. So like you do curls, pull ups, push downs, like tug of wars, like neck exercises, like everything. It was just another person. But we've been trying, since you guys have been gone, we've been trying out something new at the podcast. We call our water cooler segment. We started the show usually we just start talking back in the day and we just see wherever it took us. Yeah. Now we'll do that talking part in the beginning. We're like, what's going on this week? Like blah, 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 the stuff we would talk about if we were at the office. I feel like you're really excited about Disney Infinity right now, Matt, and I don't know anything about it.
Well, yeah, let's talk
what
about
is
the
deal?
biggest
That
video
and
game
soap opera.
release the biggest video game release this week, Disney Infinity. That's right. Yep.
I was laughing. There's no two different if you Metal Gear Solid 5 is what the one man auteur versus the evil corporation that's striking his name off the box and all this stuff, and then Disney Infinity is the most international multi conglomerate corporate piece of advertising, marketing, synergy, crap, whatever you want to call it, ever probably released in the history of mankind. And those two things are released in the same day. But it's slick. I'll say the Disney. I think the first Disney Infinity was a surprise because it's oh, this is not a terrible game. And I worked at Disney Interactive, so I fully expected it to be a terrible game, and it was fine. And the figures were fun. And then the bigger surprise was that Marvel Disney 2.0 was a terrible game, completely boring. I didn't play any of it, and I was not expecting much from Disney Infinity 3. But man, they nailed it. It's like Disney did. They capture kind of it's that weird special superficiality that it still feels earnest that Disney specializes in. You're being sold to, but man, you just love it.
Yeah.
It's like the amusement park, and it's great. It's slick. It actually feels like a game for once.
It can be fun though when someone's
really
hard selling you in something though.
But it's it's the perfect Disney sell because it's you the whole time they're literally giving you more Disney stuff. And you're just Star Wars Nightmare Before Christmas. Now I'm in a Phineas and Ferb world, and again, load times are good, the figures are fun. It's got Star Wars. That's the thing. That Star Wars score kicks in, and you're jumping around as Anakin Skywalker.
That's borderline cheating as far as game design goes.
Yeah,
if you can set it the Star Wars score to play at the right time,
Yeah.
it's it doesn't even matter what's happening.
Yeah.
It just immediately feels good.
It's I was in the middle of Nightmare Before Christmas land. I pressed a button, and all of a sudden Ewok Village was next to me, and I was climbing around Ewok Village with the
Jedi
Jedi
score.
score.
The moon of Endor.
The Moon of Endor. There you go. Well, it was specifically the Ewok Village. If I said Moon of Endor, maybe somebody's what part of the Moon of Endor? The Lake of Narcissus. I don't know
did you
any
just
place.
make that
No,
one up
I
on
made
the
that
top
up.
of
Of
your
course, I
head?
don't
It
know.
sounds
what's-
real.
That was
I
really
would've bought
good.
that 110%.
Wait, real quick, hold on. Yeah, that's a really good skill to have.
Lake
Benji,
of
name another
Narcissus.
fictional place on the
Moon of Endor. What's your favorite place on the Moon of Endor?
The first thing that came to my mind was Dagobah, but that's not in Endor.
Anthony's favorite
lost
place
again.
to vacation
Anthony, go.
on the Moon of
The
Endor.
Forest of Tranquility.
Nah,
That's a Doctor Who. That's a Doctor Who
And the
thing.
moon.
Right.
I don't know anything. I don't know anything about
the Shrine
Endor's.
of Alaktul.
Nope.
Oh,
That's
see?
Diablo. That's where you kill a Diablo boss
That's
or
right.
something.
You're right. Shoot.
Yeah, dude, I don't know anything about Endor's
Sarlacc.
geography.
Dang, Matt's really
Come on,
good at coming
just
up
say
with
something. Just say something.
BS fantasy
Yeah.
names.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, we're gonna. I'm
I
just
blew
gonna.
it.
We're gonna just. We're just gonna come back to this randomly. Matt. I'm
Uteron
just gonna
Basin.
ambush you
What,
with
Forest of Banara? Are we going? You guys
That
wanna go?
just sounds like you're having a stroke.
Forest of Banara. Forest of Banara.
We're gonna.
Anyways,
I'm gonna hit you up with that.
I mean, I don't have to pitch at Disney Infinity. You've been pitched it on every single billboard on the planet. I'm just saying it's actually. I think if people gave it a chance, they're oh yeah, this is cool Uncharted with a bunch of Disney crap. And if you like toys, it's cool. But let's talk Metal Gear.
We can't talk Metal Gear yet.
Oh,
we
oh,
have
this
to
is
talk.
water cooler?
No, we have to talk. We have to talk for
Soap
a couple
operas.
minutes.
I'm watching a soap
and then we
opera.
talk.
Yeah,
that's
Matt's
why we
got a
have
new
Anthony.
project.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got to tell
Matt's
us.
got a new
yeah.
project.
I'm watching a soap opera. I decided I'm going to watch soap opera for a year.
Dude, you. I can't believe you didn't come to me. You finally decided to watch soap operas.
you
and
watch
you
soap
don't
operas?
choose
WWE.
WWE Monday Night
It's not the
Raw.
same thing.
That
Look,
is the
no, no,
ultimate
why-
soap opera.
No, but I've watched WWE, and I would watch more of it, and it's great, and I'm glad I watched it, and I would totally watch more, because it is a male soap opera. But I feel like people always say, something soap opera, and I don't think most people have ever watched a soap opera.
Ever watched one, yeah.
outside of an episode.
Everyone. And what's interesting to me is just through just osmosis culturally, everybody kind of knows what a soap
Yeah,
opera
but
is, and the feel of it, and kind of the high dramatic stakes and the general. But nobody. But you're right. I think
even
anybody
within the
actually-
first, just watching the first week of it, it's already a lot of stuff I thought is how soap opera operated. Wow, that's a hard thing to say. It's not. It's different.
Well,
It's a little
what?
bit
Give me an
different.
example.
I thought how much you are thrown into it is crazy to me. So this week I watched the first week last week. I watched 5 episodes. The episode this week was 7 characters I hadn't seen last week. And then I started watching
really?
the intro sequence.
Same
and
show.
There are 23 characters on the intro sequence, so you must not see them for weeks at a
For a
time.
while, yeah.
And it's just
So it's you would think in shows a lot of time TV shows take your Game of Thrones or what have you. If there's multiple characters, they check in on them, and even sometimes to the detriment of the show, they'd be yo, let's see what's going on.
Which
over
I guess
here.
makes sense because you probably only have the actors for so many weeks a year. There's probably so many production reasons.
What
for
soap
it.
opera did you get on?
So I'm doing Bold and the Beautiful. I was
Okay.
tossing between Bold and the Beautiful and Young and the Restless. Young and the Restless
Yeah.
is the number one, but it's an hour long. And I was I I'm going to do this for a year.
I thought
and
you were
Bold and
going
the
to
Beautiful
try
is 30
and-
minutes.
I thought you were going to try and like crush all 60 years of Guiding Light.
No, well, that was one of the discussions I had with Freddie when I told him I was going to do this. I was like, yeah, I was looking in, and my obsessive compulsive like viewing kind of strategy. I was like, well, where do I start?
Like, do I start beginning? What if there's a new
Can't find stuff at
showrunner?
the
If there's a
beginning.
new
It's like, yeah, maybe
showrunner,
I'd
could I
start
maybe-
from the new showrunner because
Yeah.
maybe they like reestablish everything, or maybe you start from when a new writer started. No, I was like, wait, how would the normal person who's going to watch a soap opera start the show? They just plug
get
in
in
their
it.
TV, be
Yep.
like, yo, I'm not working anymore. Turn it
Are you,
on.
are you watching the ads around the soap operas?
No, I fast forward. Though sometimes like I end up sometimes you're watching if you're on the bike or something, you'll not
Mm-hmm.
fast forward through the ads. It's interesting because they literally do like this part of Bold and the Beautiful is brought to you by, and what they're selling is very interesting. It's a lot of like school kid, like obviously
Yeah.
it's mostly targeted towards
Moms,
stay-at-home
right?
moms. So it's not commercials I'm used to seeing. Anyways, interesting. And
What-
I'll
and real
admit,
quick-
I'm excited about watching today. It's like
Yeah?
within like
Did it
even
get you
now
already?
my
I
wife
can see
says
it
that
in your
watching
eyes,
it within
yeah.
like it's not as good, but you get why it works because like man, like I gotta see
Yeah.
like because
The hell happens?
yeah. The old man just broke up with his young girlfriend because he can't have a kid, and like I'm like, yo, she took that tough, and his son wants to have sex with her, so it could work out for everybody. But man, he's gonna feel betrayed when he does.
Oh, dude,
so,
that
like,
is
I'm
not
in it.
gonna work
I'm ready
out.
to go. I want to see what happens.
Wait, I have a question. So what was interesting was this last week you had told me like, oh, this is the big thing. The old man is going out with this girl.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like they just immediately it's just the tumult must just be ridiculous. The back and forth between what's happening.
You'd be
with
interested.
everybody.
You'd be interested in watching kind of the performances
Yeah.
because there's a lot of times where like, man, like they really did one take on the scene, and like literally you can see the actor forgetting a line and then like recovering from it.
That's amazing.
But these are professional actors that are
Yeah.
acting every single day. Like
Yeah.
there's nobody who's working harder for them. There's no actor who works harder than a soap opera actor. And then you'll get to a moment like the big like breakup scene, and you're like, dude. Like they deliver it,
Yeah.
and like suddenly, like the performance
Because
is
they-
really
That's
good,
Oh,
and they have
so
like
they
tears in
build
their
up to
eyes.
stuff.
They build up to stuff, and they probably care about certain scenes really well. And
Wait,
of course they're just
do you
good
mind?
actors.
Do you mind if we just swap out really quick, very fast here with someone who just walked in, really quick? It'll take just 2 minutes because I have a question for you.
Hop in here. Hop in
Jimmy?
with me.
So Matt's.
trade Jimmy.
We have Jimmy Wong here, my brother,
Oh,
who
okay.
just got back from PAX. And let me ask you this, Jimmy. Matt's been watching The Bold and the Beautiful, a soap opera.
I haven't been watch soap opera for a
You guys
year.
are periscoping.
Yeah, and he's watching an episode a year. Now you were on the soap opera, right?
Yes.
Wait, what were you on?
What?
Days of Our Lives.
Could you get in the mic? Could
Yeah,
you talk?
get
No,
the-
maybe not Days of Our Lives.
Could you talk about that experience briefly? Because we're talking
Here,
about
trade that
acting.
with
How
me.
long were you on it?
For 5 seconds.
Man,
Oh, so
Jimmy
one
was on for
episode.
5 seconds on one
episode.
episode.
Ellery said soap opera people were the nicest people she's met. What was your
Well,
experience?
let's think about one thing. I also worked with Ray Weiss recently. Legendary actor Ray Weiss is what we always call him on set. Yeah, and he is
Benji
on.
just
he's
mumbled-
on the Young and the Restless right now.
Benji just mumbled RoboCop.
So I got to-
walked away.
Not Leland Palmer.
So
not
I got
anything
to
else.
ask him a little bit about what it's like to be on a soap opera,
Yeah.
and because. So I took an
Are you
acting.
texting?
No, I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see what project I was on. I forgot the name for some. Days of Our Lives. Yeah, it wasn't Days of Our Lives.
But you're only on for like one day.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
called
okay.
Under 5, which means you have under 5 lines.
Yeah.
And then
How many takes did you get?
2 because they don't mess
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're filming upwards of 30 pages of content
a
a
day.
day.
And to give you guys some perspective
nuts.
there, at
Maybe
at
even
our
more
fever
sometimes.
pitch for season 3 VGHS
That will-
was like
oh.
8 or 9.
Yeah, fever pitch
pages.
was, and the most we ever did on VGHS season 1 was 11 to 12 pages, and that
So
was
they're
actually
normal
season
day.
3 on the first half of
Yeah,
episode 4 we shot all in one day, which was 14 pages.
Yeah,
but that was like
they're
a
but,
sitcom.
Yeah,
to be
it was a sitcom,
so
yeah.
but soap opera normal day is 3 times, 4 times.
yeah, and we're
what-
talking heavy dialogue, and these people have to sit and memorize 30 to 40 pages a day.
Yeah,
Of
so-
dialogue, so that's why they're incredibly hardworking and they're real actors. So I took it's called a casting director workshop
Yeah.
where you can go and the casting director will sit there and teach a bunch of students like, hey, I'm going to give you scenes, you can audition for me, and then I'll give you the notes that I would because I cast this. And it was Marnie Saida, and she cast Days of Our Lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so afterwards, she called me in for a random under 5, and it was a process server, the guy that says if
yeah.
you're summoned
Wait,
to
you
court.
look nothing like
That's
a
great.
process.
That's the point of a
server.
process
Anybody can be a
server.
process server,
Anyone can be
yeah.
a process server.
What do you think a process server looks like?
At least a guy who can, handle himself if things get ugly. Like,
Really?
to take a couple punches.
I guess
could be a process server.
You never see it coming.
you would
That's true. I
Sneak
guess you
attack.
would never see it coming.
So I
all
played
right,
a
that's fair.
process server, and then I
What
got
were your
there.
lines? Do you remember them?
Yeah, I asked his name, and then you've been served.
God,
It's
such a
under
professional.
5
Keep
lines.
that stuff in the brain box. It's good.
It's incredible that you can recall. That's, ladies and gentlemen, acting.
Yeah, so the guy was in hospital because his lover or something had, like, there was the amounts of betrayal and
Yeah.
like and damage and shit that these people get into is insane. But Marnie Say this made a really good comment, which is if you're on a soap opera, if you are BSing even just for a half second, any of the stuff you're saying, because it's so it's so big and it's
Yeah.
out there, everyone will know, and it's not the point, and that's not why you're there. So these actors are 1,000% dedicated to the scenes they're doing, to the craziness of the levels that they're doing.
Yeah, I was telling Freddie
because
that
you can't lie. You cannot lie when you're doing that stuff.
the dialogue is so emotive and direct. Like it's you can't really play with it. Like it has to be emotionally true. And I was thinking
It's the all caps.
and it's interesting because when I watch it, it's like there's times where I'm like, oh, this scene's not that important, and like you can there's moments where I can literally see the actor like they're remembering their line, and some people would see it as bad acting. Like literally, I'm seeing it as like a first draft, like they just are literally getting it. But what I was saying is interesting is like. So the end of last week, obviously, at the end of the week, the soap opera will do like a big moment to make sure you're watching through to the weekend so far.
Interesting.
Like a lot of stuff happened at the end of last week. But even this week, I was saying when they get to the big scenes, it's like these are good actors. Like when they get to like the big betrayal scene or stuff like that, I'm like, these are real performances. Like this is legitimate stuff. And it's fascinating because again, they're shooting 30 pages in a day, so they're still doing that in 1 or 2 takes.
They can't mess around. Yeah, when I went in, so it was really because you can tell they've been there for so long. They're so comfortable on set too because they're like, we got this. Like I'm nailing these pages every single day. It's easy.
Yeah.
And they're all seasoned actors. They've been doing this for tons of years and getting paid very well. I went in and my line was again, Mr. So-and-so, and the person goes, yes, and then you've been served.
Yeah.
And he's in a hospital bed. We did it a couple of times, and the guy didn't like it, so on the spot he changed what the scene was, how it worked.
really?
So he was like, let's do it this way. Just come in and ask my name. So I did the same thing. I asked his name, and then instead of me saying you've been served, his character originally was caught by surprise. He just looked at me and decided that at that moment his character just was like, I know what's happening. Come on, give it to me. And so he added in a little line for himself and like took the thing from my hand.
Jimmy,
and,
did he cut a line of yours?
Yes, but I think I still got fitted in there somehow.
Do you think maybe?
You know what happens? He was giving. Like,
Are you feeling betrayed?
Yeah.
Are you looking back at it?
He actor soap opera.
For all those like looking forward to the discussion of Metal Gear Solid 5, let's continue talking about soap opera.
Anyway,
I mean, it's the same kind of thing.
that was it. Yeah,
kind of
the
thing.
guys were super confident. They're all like very like happy to be there, and everyone that was working on it.
Yeah,
as
'cause
soon
they're
as it was
getting
done, they're
paid.
like
You're
great,
getting
and everyone's up. They're out. The crew's moving. It's like watching one of those wrestling shows. Like they have to nail it because they can't mess around. They're doing 12 different setups that day. They're going to 8 different places with different lightings, and they just go. They just pop off.
Cool.
Just pop it off. Very impressive.
All right. Well, thank you, Jimmy, for stopping by briefly to
Goodbye.
share with us. I thought that was very
Yeah.
fortuitous that he happened to walk in right in the middle of our, and I remembered that he was talking about how he had a soap opera experience. So anyway, Matt, I think every time you're on the podcast, he's got to update us. We're more. I'm making him do it in the morning.
I was about to say,
meetings.
making me do it in the morning meeting.
In morning meetings, I give him 30 seconds to update it.
To
And
go
you actually
bold
need,
and beautiful.
You actually probably need a minute looking at how long 30 seconds
A lot of
is.
stuff happens.
A lot of stuff happens
in a week.
All right.
We'll take a break really quick. We'll come back and we'll get in on that Metal Gear Solid. How's that sound?
All right. Metal Gear Solid discussion.
Hey everybody, we're going to take a quick break to tell you about one of the Facerocker Podcast sponsors, Squarespace. Building a website can be tough, and even if you do know your way around coding, creating something that looks good and works well is a time-consuming affair. Whether it's for a business site, a portfolio, a restaurant, or whatever else, in this day and age, you probably need one anyway. Well, lucky for you, Squarespace makes it easy to build websites without breaking a sweat. Squarespace provides simple, powerful, and a beautiful website that looks professionally designed regardless of skill level, no coding required. Not only does Squarespace provide you with intuitive and easy-to-use tools to create your website with, Squarespace also has state-of-the-art technology powering your site to ensure security and stability. And you know you can trust in Squarespace for your website needs when millions of people and some of the most respected brands in the world trust in them too. Seriously, you can't beat the ease and simplicity of Squarespace. Squarespace gives you 24/7 online support and a beautiful website for only $8 a month. That's right, you heard me, only $8 a month. You can even get a free domain if you buy Squarespace for the year. So what are you waiting for? Start a trial with no credit card required and start building your website today. When you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code FACEROCKER to get 10% off your first purchase and to show your support for the Facerocker Podcast. That's Facerocker, Facerocker. We want to thank Squarespace for their support of the podcast. Squarespace, build it beautiful.
So, there's a reason we have Anthony here, other than the fact that Metal Gear Solid came out. You're not just a huge fan. I wouldn't say huge fan, but you know pretty much a lot about it. You wrote a book.
Yes,
That's right.
He wrote a book.
I wrote a book about Metal
You're
Gear
a
Solid.
published author.
Wait, are you
Ash and I wrote
Metal
a book
Gear-
together about it.
Are you and Ash then the only two published authors on
the
the
office?
subject of academic discourse relating to Metal Gear Solid?
No. There are a couple other because it's
Wrong
primarily
answer.
published. Yes.
Wow.
Please, you two can own the only academic, and it's also not academic at all. Like within 50 pages, we're making jokes about boobs.
Sounds like my
yeah.
kind of book.
If you want your critical analysis to come with the side of absolute just bottom of the barrel humor, then you will really like the book.
Nice.
But yeah,
Well, tell us a little bit about the book and the process and
so the
where
book-
we can
oh,
get
I
it.
have the book.
You have a copy of it right here. Look at that.
Book.
Came prepared.
Here.
It is.
It's called Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. So it's part of an anthology. There's like an anthology of books called the Boss Fight Books.
In fact, what's hilarious is it's called Metal Gear Solid, and underneath it says by Ashley and Anthony Burch. So for someone who is unfamiliar with the fact that Metal Gear Solid is a video game, they may wrongly conclude that you
Like, hey, like some
actually-
grandma's like, my
My son
grandkid
talks
said that he
about
always
this
wanted to
game.
play Metal Gear. I guess it must be this.
I guess kids play books these days.
We can disappoint so many children thanks to grandparents. We can be the straight to DVD version of Aladdin that isn't actually made by Disney. Yeah, so Boss Fight Books is this anthology where they got a bunch of interesting people and then us to talk about different games with a critical lens and like take different attacks on it. And they had like academics and scholars and all these kind of people talk about older games. And they're like,
Boring.
we want something different now. We want a
Fun.
brother and a sister that don't know that much but are kind of funny.
Wait, are you saying that the other ones are not as funny?
No, they're not. Most of the other ones are not funny at all.
So this is the only one you want to read. Book 9. So in
Book
the series,
9.
I mean, they're
just-
more-
You can just skip straight to book 9.
It's not like the Rocky movies where you need to see all of them.
Like it
in
started
order.
off pretty strong, but like books 2 to 8 were pretty rough. But then book 9,
Nine
that's
is where
the
it really
series
hits
gets
its
straight.
stride.
Well,
Hits
what's
its
funny
stride.
is that so this book came out, and,
Yeah.
and you guys very humbly and very quietly like, oh, they did this book out, and then I was funny as it came to the office just very slowly. I realized every single person had a copy of it somewhere around them, or were in the middle of reading it, or had it on
yeah.
a Kindle or something like that. I was like, wow, I feel like everyone here is reading this book and just kind of quietly going through it.
Well, percentage of those are because somebody went, you wrote a book? And I went, yeah, do you want a copy for free? Because I have a copy for free. They went, okay. And then I just threw it at them.
Dude, Jon Karmen like devoured it.
Yeah, John
John
read it in,
Karmen
like,
gave me the best
10
feedback I've
minutes.
ever gotten on anything I've ever done ever.
Yeah?
He was like, I'm so happy I read this book and it like I'm so excited to play Metal Gear Solid 5 with a new critical lens. I was like, that's word for word exactly what I wanted.
And Matt, have you read it yet?
No.
I have read it. I do highly recommend it. If you can get it in physical form, recommend that more, actually.
Jon Karmen bought 2 copies. That's how
I mean,
excited
you
he
did
was.
get John
And he
like
gave
really
me one.
psyched. Like he was like, make sure you text me when you guys start talking about Metal Gear today. I'm gonna hop in there. Okay.
Oh, cool.
So like he's gonna switch out with me because
Oh, really?
you got him so excited to talk about it, and I
He-
guess he wants to
he loves
defend
it.
it. He thinks Matt's gonna dog it, and he's like, you gotta let me come in here to defend.
We
it.
were already
I think
talking
Matt's
about
gonna
it
go
today.
after it.
I like
I'm gonna
it.
text him
He's
right
the
now. I'm
solid
gonna get him in
Matt's
here.
like,
There's Metal Gear Solid does not need defending. It
Yeah,
does
okay,
it
so real quick
itself.
before we get too deep into that, so Metal Gear Solid 5 just came out, big gaming event, big Metal Gear 5, The Phantom Pain, or was that Ground Zeroes? Or
it was Metal Gear. It was just Metal Gear Ground Zeroes, and then Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, and this is Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom.
okay, so not confusing at all.
No, not at
as
all.
in the tradition of all Metal Gear games. And so you have a book. It's about the first Metal Gear.
Yes, it's about Metal Gear Solid, which
Metal Gear
is the first,
Solid, the first
PS1 game, but the
Yeah,
third
that's
in the
right.
series.
That's right, and you can get that on Amazon.com.
He
Just
knows
do a
his stuff.
search.
You get
So he wrote a book.
Amazon.com,
So
or
he
you,
wrote a
or you can get it on bossfightbooks.com.
Yes,
by the
so
way.
I highly recommend it, and I'm very glad that you're here today because it will lend a little bit of levity to the discourse that is about to happen, which is Matt Arnold hates Metal Gear. That's
I hate it.
It's more dramatic if you hate a thing than
Yeah.
if you just don't feel a thing.
So what was your experience with Metal Gear, Matt? Your first
me?
experience, yeah.
I mean, I think that might have. You were asking me when I first played it because I think maybe it just didn't hit. Like maybe I didn't play it right when it came out because I didn't have a PlayStation. I had a Nintendo 64, so I didn't play it when it came out.
Nintendo boys.
Yep. And when I first played
Down
it,
in the basement.
I remember trying to download it on the PC. I couldn't get it to work on my PC.
Wait, back
and
up. You tried to download it on the PC, aka you tried to pirate it on
I tried
the
to pirate
PC.
it.
Got off
And-
Morpheus and
Yeah, and it
Kazaa.
didn't work very well.
Oh, dude.
But I did
Morpheus.
play. I loved the Game Boy Color one, which was I thought it was called Ghost. It's Ghost Babel.
Yeah,
but,
but that's an unofficial title, kind of.
Unofficial
anyway.
title. Yeah, and I loved that game. That game was great. And then I've played the first one finally, but as Twin Snakes, and I really played it just because I wanted to see Ryo Kitamura's cutscenes because he directed Versus.
Who's an incredible Japanese actor.
And
director.
I didn't
those
get-
cutscenes are one, people either love them or hate them.
Yeah.
More. It sounds like more often than not people hate them.
Yeah,
because they feel like
they're
it's
so stylistically different from the original Metal Gear.
Yeah, and that was crazy to me because I did go back when the HD pack came out. I went back to play the original, and I was like, people hated those cutscenes because like these are like the same cutscenes, just boring as hell. At least Ryo Kitamura's was like crazy camera angles and stuff. And like I've gone back to see Twin Snakes, and like it doesn't hold up. I mean, Ryo Kitamura's cutscenes are insane, but the first one was freaking boring as hell. But I remember even then, like I literally remembered feeling like I was just struggling through the game just to see like the closest thing I could to another Versus because. I don't know. I like Win. What was that? Do you remember the game on 64? It's called like Win something. It was like a Winback.
Yeah.
I thought that was better than Metal Gear Solid. Like I enjoyed.
It's more of a shooter.
Yeah,
It's a different kind of
yeah.
game.
I don't know, but like I remember, like I was just playing. I was like, man, I just don't like this game very much. But these cutscenes are pretty cool.
You
So,
probably also had the thing I had where it's like you have an N64 and any game that you play that's not on PS1, it's like this is so much better than the equivalent on
it's definitely-
PS1.
it's definitely
God,
relevant
I'm so glad not one of those idiots has a PS1. Gosh, Final Fantasy sounds stupid.
so glad my parents paid $70 for this cartridge. Which is how much like Turok.
Turok is
that was
the greatest
my neighbor.
game.
Literally did that. He did the buyer's like
Yeah.
fallacy where he's just like, yeah, you know, like Turok, it's like totally res, it's like the best, right? And it's like, yeah.
I sure love moving around with the camera buttons in Turok. It's so fun.
But I don't know what. Look, the
Well, let me
history
ask
of
you this
Metal
real
Gear Solid
quick.
is just this.
Let me ask you this real quick then, because I think a lot of us had sort of shared experiences with Metal Gear. Like I played with my brother, and like were there kids at school like who you talked to about it, or was it just you by yourself just trying out this weird new game? Did you talk to anybody at that time?
Yeah, no, people definitely like Metal Gear. Like, there was kids in my school that like Metal Gear. Metal Gear's always been, like I said, I described it as like that cool. It's like the neighbor's having a really cool party, and I keep walking by it, and then when I finally get let in, everybody just kicks me out. And I don't know why I don't have a good time at the party. Like, I feel like I should. It's everybody I know likes it. It's like, it seems to hit, like, I like anime. I like that weird stuff. I love freaking Platinum games. Bayonetta is like one of my favorite games. Like, all that stuff every time. Every time a new Metal Gear Solid comes out, I buy it. I try to play it. I get bored in 4 hours.
What's
A
hilarious?
year later, I try it again.
What's hilarious
I
is
get
that this
bored
exact
again.
pattern is impossible in any other medium, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, there's no thing that comes out that's like, well, this movie came out. I saw the first 4 of them. I hated all 4. But the 5th one came out. I had to buy that movie. Or it's like, oh man, I got this new board game. It's like, well, this whoever makes these board games, I hate.
And I even wish I
just don't like them.
And I really wish I had an interesting reason to dislike. That's the thing. I don't think it's like even hate. It's like it's. I wish I had an interesting thing to say about Metal Gear Solid. I wish I was like, oh, you know, ultimately I think the politics and the sexism is problematic and blah blah blah. It's like no, it's just the cutscenes are boring and the game's boring to me.
Yeah, I think
Every
it's
time.
not actually about. It's not a party you can't get into. It's we're all doing hallucinogens, and you have a natural immunity to that hallucinogen.
Yeah, I was just like I don't get. The cutscenes are. Everybody knows the cutscenes are long, so it's not a thing. It's like cutscenes are long, but like even the absurdity doesn't hit me in the same way that like a Platinum Games does, or like something. Because again,
Do you feel
you
that
know
they're
my taste? Like
do you
you've seen
feel
me
that they're
like that sort of.
pretentious? Because Kojima definitely one is an auteur, absolutely, and
Yeah.
2 he definitely tackles
Yeah, insane
crazy
stuff.
stuff.
In not subtle ways. He'll have a character sit you down for 30 minutes and be like, let me talk to you for reals, though, on nuclear proliferation. And for the first time in the entire game, use actual stock footage of actual humans moving nuclear waste
Yeah.
into barrels and stuff. And you're like, I'm just watching a propaganda film at this point. And it's kind of dope because it's so earnest. But at the same time, it's clearly not like, it's not the best way to go about that if you were seriously trying to convey a
I just-
message.
All right, we got John. John's in the building.
I
Come
just
here,
find
switch
it.
me out, John.
You know what it is? I think in the end, and because there's no way to think. I'm trying to think of like what's different about that and like Bayonetta, and it's like other than the fact that Bayonetta at least has the like restraint to like keep the cutscenes like.
But it seems like
They show you something crazy and then they're out of there.
You
in
seem
3
to be like
minutes.
really hard on the cutscenes. Like if the cutscenes were all half as long, do you feel like you would enjoy the game more?
Well, it's not just that.
Yeah, because I think the game's
Bayonetta-
boring. To me, the game's the worst part of it. Like we've talked about this a million times. I think the worst Splinters. I enjoy the gameplay in the worst Splinter Cell, like Double Conviction or whatever it is.
Double Conviction.
What was it called?
Splinter Cell. Double
know what I'm
Conviction.
talking
You combine 2 different Splinter Cell games, but yes.
Conviction and Double Agent.
Double Agent.
Double Conviction.
Double Conviction.
What? That's like a shitty
That's a game.
Ashley
No,
Judd movie.
that's a game. That's a game that has confidence in itself. It is 100% knows what it's
I mean,
about.
it's called Splinter Cell Double Conviction.
I'm
So
double
Sam
convicted.
Fisher got convicted twice.
Sam Fisher, you will go to turbo prison with a double conviction.
And that would be the
Now-
Metal Gear Solid version of Splinter Cell.
Now-
That's what it is.
Now it's up to Sam Fisher to clear his name twice.
Honestly, you know what's weird is you just said double conviction. That's not weirder than Revengeance for sure.
No, not at all. Yeah, Revengeance is like my least favorite Metal Gear because again, it was like it felt like a game I liked, but then Kojima kept bugging me every 30 minutes with his stupid cutscene.
But you know there's a skip button, right?
Huh?
Yeah, the skip button.
Yeah.
John, eat that microphone.
Eat that microphone, John. Yeah, again, I just find the gameplay.
It's
I was
an
talking about
essential
this.
tonal
Like, is the
difference.
first one? There's like it takes like 4 buttons to like aim down the sights and like shoot in Snake, and everybody's
Or
like,
if you wanna, like,
Snake,
if you
and
wanna stay on your tippy
camouflage.
toes,
But the
yeah.
camouflage is not an interesting gameplay mechanic. You literally open up a menu and change your clothes to the thing that you're in.
No,
Like
the camouflage. I'm right with you.
that
there. A
is
lot of people
Farmville
really defend
level.
it.
Like that's a gameplay mechanic. It's like here you're in a grass thing. Go match the grass thing, child. You match your grass. Now keep walking.
I don't
now
know.
nobody will
I
see you.
I mean, at the time, sure, it's archaic now. At the time, it was like comforting because I'd be like really intimidated by how many guys are around, and then I would change.
I mean,
my
to be fair, you still
camo.
are.
At the time, Crisis had come out, and you could freaking change your camouflage on the fly while doing super boosts and having actual tactical decisions like instantly. Like there's games that like have interesting.
Well, the fourth one fixed it. It was auto camo or octo camo.
It was called Octo Camo because octopi have the ability to naturally camouflage themselves, and that was where they got the technology from. Hi, I'm Anthony.
I love that. But see, that's the thing. Is like I see Anthony. I'm like
hi,
I
I'm
should be Anthony. Like everything he's saying is like
no,
the
one
way
is, no one has ever said that sentence before.
it's like the way I defend like Bayonetta or something. It's like you have like, and that's why it bugs me that I don't get into it. But really, I think it comes down to that. I just don't find it's the same reason I can't get into. It's the same banal reason I don't like Grand Theft Auto. Everybody's like, well, like Grand Theft Auto, all these interesting things to say. I'm like, I don't know. I just think it's literally the most boring open world game you could possibly play. Like,
And you're a big Just Cause fan.
Just Cause is like, hey,
conversely.
want to play Grand Theft Auto but have fun? Like, play Just Cause. Like,
Yeah.
or that's why I loved what was the stupid one that everybody bought just to get the beta, the superhero open world game, Crackdown.
Oh yeah, Crackdown.
First Crackdown. That game played like a freaking Mario game. That game controlled wonderfully. That was a blast. Grand Theft Auto is like, here's all the most boring elements of a video game put together.
Yeah, the thing about Metal Gear Solid that if it works for you is the coolest thing ever. If it doesn't, you feel the way about it that you do. Is that it is at the same exact time, not alternating, but at the same exact time, the silliest, dumbest, most willfully ignorant, over the top, indulgent, every silly thing that you like, just not taking itself seriously, and then at the same time taking itself more seriously than any video game.
I want to
in
play
the
that game
entire
so badly.
world.
Like when you say that, I'm like, that should be on the
This is
back of the
interesting
game
because,
I wish I could make. Like that's why
Because,
it bugs me. I don't like
would
Metal
argue,
Gear.
like in a weird way, not to the same extent, but like even like a movie like Speed Racer. Is
No,
that
exactly. Everything about
blend.
Metal Gear feels like I should love it, but it's just
Interesting. Hold on, well, hold that thought. So we're joined by Jon Karmen, DJ Jon Karmen, on the Wheels of
Scratch
Steel
Scratch,
here.
DJ Scratch
DJ
Scratch,
Scratch coming
Master.
at you.
This week at Rocketjump,
Extraordinaire, who is a staunch Metal Gear Solid fanboy.
he called today's launch the greatest game
Video
event in
Video
a
game
decade
event
or something
in
like that.
decades.
Absurd.
He dropped that mic as hard as he could, spiked it into the ground. So, John, tell me just real quick about your first experience with Metal Gear.
Wait, how many people were at the 9 p.m. In line?
A lot.
Really?
40, 50?
A lot.
60?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's legitimate.
Well,
It
tell
was
us-
more.
Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about your history.
I don't, well,
with
like,
Metal Gear. 'Cause you're a little bit younger than us as well. So
Yeah,
the
I
age
was like,
is a little bit different.
well, it's like
now.
I was like around 9 or 10. You know, I loved video games, but my parents were worried that I would get too hooked on it. But I would just end up making friends with people I didn't like, just so I could like play their video game systems. And so finally they like,
that's the behavior of a crack addict.
so yeah, eventually my parents just like gave in. They're like, all right, dude, like we'll get you a
your
video
main
game
line.
system.
Yeah.
What did you
Yeah.
get?
Well, it was like the choice between N64 and PlayStation, and everyone of my friends had N64, so I kind of
interesting.
just felt like I'll just try PlayStation because this is for me.
Yeah,
And PlayStation is more specialized in single player experiences rather than
Straight up some Robert Frost shit. Two roads diverge. You know what I mean?
I take the one with more single-player games.
Yeah.
I remember that poem.
yeah. No, I just wanted something that I could just like isolate myself with. You know, I didn't want like to have
Yeah,
like
you didn't want Mario 64.
I didn't want-
the two greatest games of all time.
Yeah.
Let's start this console war all over again. Let's do it.
Nintendo has good. They have great games, but it's like a limited selection of like perfect games. Whereas like
There are 5 perfect N64 games.
Yeah.
There are like 100 pretty damn good PS1 games.
Yeah, and so Metal Gear was just like the first. I was
You
also
don't
was a
mention
little
racing, that's what
movie.
I'm talking about, right?
Sorry, what?
Sorry, I'm totally
Beautiful
interrupting you.
imitation.
Go, John, talk about Metal Gear.
I was also a little movie geek, so like to play Metal Gear, which was like the first time like the line between a movie and a game was kind of blurred, was just mind blowing. And so I would actually take the time to watch all the cinematics, and I did that in 2. I did that in 3.
Did you ever skip the dialogue, or did you read the subtitles and then wait for them very patiently to say aloud what you just read?
No, I would be patient with it, but then
That's
That's back what you did
Yeah.
back in the day because you're like, I want to play the game and get all the content that my parents paid for.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember like the save points would be really far apart. So if you wanted to like absorb all of the story and the dialogue and the gameplay, you know, it was just
Oh,
it'd
that
be
game was
hours
the
between
ultimate.
save points.
That game was the ultimate troll
You
because
can
it was
save
the,
anytime you want.
no, but in terms of you can't
call
do it,
melee.
but you can't do it in the middle of a cutscene.
Yeah, in
right?
the middle of a cutscene.
Oh, in the middle of
yeah.
cutscene. Oh, yeah.
So
It's the
when
ultimate
when
like,
came
Mom,
to-
just
yeah.
let us finish this cutscene.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Can
know
you
I'm
pause
gonna
it?
be
Not
here.
now.
Yeah.
It's PS1 era. They haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah. So when it came to like the part with Solidus on the you know, on top of the whatever that was, the New York
trade exchange.
Yeah, and the end of 2, like it just cutscene after cutscene after cutscene, and then a huge boss battle, then more cutscenes before a save point. And then like it was super late at night, and my dad just came and was like, "Dude, you have to go to bed." And I was like, "No, wait, you have to just wait till this cutscene's out." And he's like, "All right, fine." And he'd come back like 30 minutes later, and it'd still be going on. I'm like, "I swear, I haven't been able to save." And he just would just turn it off. It just kind of like crushed me for a while. I had to do it all again because those boss battles are really hard too. But
I mean,
yeah,
we're talking a lot about all the things that kind of suck about Metal Gear, but like, I think what you're getting at with the thing that was like movies and games sort of coexisting for the first time, Metal Gear Solid was like, I remember the first time because Ash and I played it side by side, played through the whole thing. It was like a bonding experience for us. This is why part of the reason why it means so much to me. And playing that game, not realizing exactly what genre it existed in and what would be interactive, what would not. Playing that game was like having the universe just open to me. Like everything was possible when I played that game. Like it's a game that hides a gun, which is like every other game is like, we'll give you a gun in the first 2 seconds. Guns are important. It hides a gun and you can just miss it in the first 5 minutes of the
Under
game.
a trucker inside of
it's so weirdly confident in every aspect of its expression of itself that it just feels like you're always seeing something new. Every time you turn a corner and there's a bunch of corpses and like an invisible vampire thing. What is going on here? And then you turn a corner and you have to fire a remote missile down a hallway. Like it gets bored of itself so quickly that it's throwing new things in all the time.
AVD gameplay experience almost.
Yeah, which as a kid, when you haven't been beaten down by AAA games into like expecting they're all going to be like this, it's like this games could be anything
with the
now.
exact same control scheme.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so yeah, despite how flawed and weird it is, like it felt like almost in a weird way of friendship. Like the developer's Kojima's personality shined so brightly through the gameplay and the cinematics and every aspect, every weird like sort of camera zoom on like some girl's boobs that was just unnecessary or whatever.
It just felt like a guy I didn't want to be friends with. I think that's what it is.
No, I mean I'm sure if I knew him in real
it's
life,
really specific. Like I agree, but
I'm just saying. But how often? I mean, at least now you have like indie games where like there's all
I think
sorts
that is why.
back in the day that was like
no,
unheard
that's
of.
true, and that's one of the things that's most fascinating. Why I will always play them because.
So he's just like the weird guy.
I was literally saying, and maybe this is unfair to him. I'm like, I feel like part of it is also. Again, I don't know. Maybe this like inside out analogy is totally wrong, but I feel like there's always something that creates that island in your brain for you, like the friendship island in Inside Out, or like the family island, and like that's why everybody who watched Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which like I think is kind of an only okay movie, it created the martial arts island. So everyone's like, that's the greatest martial arts movie ever, and then you're like, wait, no, I saw Iron Monkey, I've seen Once Upon a Time in China 1, 2, and 3. Like there's way better movies, and I think maybe like Metal Gear was that to so many people, like it merged movies and games, and like it's that Akira for some people, where it's like I watched a lot of anime before I saw Akira, and I saw Akira like I freaking hated it. I was like, this is the most boring, horrible anime I've ever seen in my life. How is this everybody's?
Probably the worst
how is this
gateway anime?
Same thing with Ghost in the Shell. I tried watching that. I was like,
Ghost in the Shell.
and those are, but those for certain people, that's Metal Gear. That's like that is the best, like because that is the thing that opened up the world to them. And like Metal Gear Solid, like I was a PC gamer also, so like
you're saying almost in
like
a weird
Half-Life,
way.
like Half-Life came out around the same time, and again, on Rogue Spear. Like Rogue Spear was to me was like stealth and spy and like and Rainbow Six, and Metal Gear Solid felt dumb.
So in a weird way, by being
and it felt
early,
cinematic to me too. It felt
by being early, it opened up.
Well, I wonder. I'm just because again, I think there's a lot of value to Metal Gear Solid. So I'm not just missing it by saying. I wonder if that's what it is.
But what was interesting that what was John's talking about. I think that absolutely could be a big part of it, which then makes me wonder.
I wonder how many new Metal Gear Solid fans there are.
How many seasoned video game fans got into Metal Gear 3?
I'm sure there are, of course. But I'm just curious.
It's got into Metal Gear Solid.
But again,
3,
is it like Metal Gear Solid 3 came in when they were 12, and it's like the first game like that for them,
or is it a new game they had played a bunch of stuff and that was got them into the series? Like, that's a good question, right? How many people went back to the first one after playing number 3 being?
So I think one of the things I was saying, again, maybe is unfair, is like I maybe feel like it's also there are so few auteurs. Again, it's like you know about game. Who knows? Like maybe it's at this point, it's just like there's just as many people involved in it. Obviously, there's hundreds of people who are making it, but it's like it's almost as if Michael Bay was the only person making movies, and then it's like, yeah, he's the greatest. Like I love his stuff. It's like, yeah, but like if there was like at least 6 other people that were doing action adventure games that had like a personality, maybe it'd be pretty clear that's like, like everything about this is borderline unbearable, but it's like unique.
But he's legitimately good in a lot of ways too.
There is again, and there are like
his characterization is incredible. Like we were talking about the Sniper Wolf death scene. Like it makes me tear up every single time, and again, that scene is literally 15, 20 years old. Like it's ridiculous.
Is that in the
It's
first
just,
game?
it's just,
It's
and
Metal
this-
Gear Solid,
there's-
yeah,
it
for
evokes no other game for me, or the series all the way through evokes this feeling of nostalgia. Like he's still like when you open up menus or anything, he's still using the same sound effects that he had back in 1998. Like
It becomes something greater than what it is now, though. You know?
But see, that's fascinating. I get, yeah. I mean, again, I think it's the specific, and maybe that it's interesting to hear that because like it's the same guy making that sort of thing. But to me, that's like maybe that's the cocaine that is. To me, that's like doesn't even compare to when I open up a new Mario game. Like it's just like my entire life.
smell it.
It's like 20 years of Nintendo gloriousness. And so, like it's like so much nostalgia. Like I feel like other games evoke that nostalgia.
That's an interesting sort of dystopian view of what video games will become. It's just nostalgia vehicles for all of our childhoods. Maybe.
Part of it. But
I mean,
like,
that's where a lot of the good in Metal Gear Solid 4 in particular comes out. But like, what's really interesting about the games to me are, if you've grown up with them, you get to sort of plot your own
with
character growth against the
Yeah.
way that Snake grows or
Yeah.
does not grow. Like, I mean, to the point where now I used to consider myself a person that was very much in line with like, yeah, I want to be like Solid Snake. Like, he's this guy who's a real hard ass and a badass, but he also desperately cares about like people. He really likes girls. He really likes girls. But he's got like everybody makes fun of him in the first game. He has this like Otacon asks him like, do you think love can bloom on a battlefield? He's like, I think love can bloom anytime, like with this gritty voice. Like it's like I really think romance is important. And I was like, that's me or something. But then the older you get, like the last Metal Gear game, Ground Zeroes, ends with like a woman having a bomb forced in her orifices, and then they explode, and it's like, oh, I'm just a different guy than Hideo Kojima now. I've come so far from where I am
dude,
now.
by the time like 4 had come out, I was like starting to. I wasn't skipping cutscenes, but I was not enjoying them.
You were rolling your eyes a little more.
But that is
Yeah.
interesting. I think that that's the same. If we want to go back to soap operas, it's the same thing. Like you guys have, it's interesting to. You have something like because like even something like Nintendo is still like a franchise. There's like now that you bring up, I can't think of a character that has developed over the course of 20 years in video games at all. I can't think of anybody. I'm trying to think of a single like story-driven character that's been around for that long.
There's a really good there's a Mega 64 sketch where somebody's trying to get the two of the guys to go to a wedding when Metal Gear Solid 4 comes out, and it's just a throwaway line, but they go, "I'm not going to your fucking wedding. Like I've known Solid Snake way longer than your mom knows Jeff." And it's like, holy shit, that's true. Like there was a moment at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4 where you as Snake are crawling to the end of this corridor filled with microwaves. Well, on the bottom of the screen and on the top of the screen, it's every character you've grown to love over 15 years of playing video games slowly getting shot down and almost dying and being put in danger. And I was playing that with my sister, and she and I were screaming at the top of our lungs. She was off of the couch screaming at me, "Press it, we have to keep going. He can't die here." And
Dude,
like
it's like
nothing
one of the most,
has
it's like one of the
ever
most
made me
intense.
feel that
It's
way.
like one of the most intense.
I remember looking at that sequence after you guys talked about it.
Yeah.
And it's like here's like I think the major.
I wish it did.
I think it's like the major difference between something like Metal Gear and Mario is that Mario, it's been the same experience, just improved upon over and over. Like he runs, he jumps, he fights
another debate,
Bowser,
John.
he saves the princess.
Well, it's
you know what I mean?
unpretentious. Mario's unpretentious.
Yeah.
It gives you what it wants to give you and no more.
Yeah.
And it's just very, very.
And what it
But
wants to
also-
give you, by the way, is the greatest feeling a human being can experience.
It's perfect,
in
but
digital
it's focused.
form.
It's perfect and it's focused, and there's almost never like name a bad Mario game. There's like 2.
Yeah.
But Metal Gear Solid.
But see,
is
I was
just
gonna
like,
say, and not to
insane.
detour this, but the thing that I think is when you talk about that gun, see, like sitting underneath the table, I actually think that's exactly what. Why Miyamoto is the greatest game designer is that he does every level of Mario is full of hundreds of guns hidden underneath tables that shouldn't be there. Little things like you hit a flower and like little sparkles fly. Why? Because Nintendo can literally make it, but it's so good and perfect at what it does, you don't even notice that every single thing they're doing is complete magic. Like it's just like, what? Oh, you can ice skate. When you ice skate, the animation's different. It's like just as there's more stuff happening in those games. It's just not as like, yo, check it out. Yeah, I hit girls' boobs on the inside of a locker because you can figure it out. Nintendo would just be like, you don't even
Can we talk about
notice it
that for a
happened.
second, by the way?
Uh-huh.
Like, what a weird feeling that was for me when Metal Gear 2 came out, and just being like, you lock yourself in a locker, and then there's a girl's, like a bikini pic inside, and then if you press R2, which usually is just kind of like to look closer against the grate, you can just kiss the poster. And it's
that's
like
a thing you can do.
You never found that?
I forgot about. No,
yeah,
it
if you
reminds
go
me now. Yeah.
and you just kiss the poster. I'm just like, what? Like, why? Like, it's so many weird pervy things hidden. It's just bizarre. Whereas like Mario is streamlined, so like people of all ages can just enjoy and
Mario's
pick
a
up and
Pixar
play.
movie.
Yeah.
Metal Gear is like
Mario
it's almost
doesn't
border-
make out with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Metal Gear
Those are all
is,
good
yeah,
things
it's-
you're saying so far.
No, it's borderline. It's almost it's like borderline masochistic, weird, just out there experience, but
it has all this AAA money behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
And
that's
that's
everything
what's
that's
so
fascinating. I just wish
about
it was
it.
more.
Yeah.
It's like when Mike talked about. It's like Mike arguing against us with Michael Bay, and I get why he feels this way with Michael Bay. It's like you're right. That's what fascinates me. I just wish it was more interesting. Like it's like you're right. It's really weird. Like it's interesting on an academic level to me that this guy can do all this stuff, and there's all these fascinating things. I just wish the weird thing that happened was more interesting than you could kiss a girl. All that makes me be like is like, oh yeah, Hideo Kojima was like one of those really weird people I've met in my 30 years of living many times. He just happens to also make huge video games. You know, it's like I wish like something was like. I wish something made me go like, whoa, he has a really fast, like he's a great mind, or that's really interesting, or I'm gonna remember that.
Like to the same extent that Kazuma
again, and I know it does for other people. I wish it did that for me.
Like I'll say like that. I had that feeling around the guy made Kamari Damacy. It's like
yeah,
this
like
guy's
yes,
a vision.
Because that's just as bizarre, but it's fast. And the same thing with Eco and Shadows of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Like I'm like
Yeah.
that is a fascinating. And not only that, it feels like worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like something like, and again, not that it has to be pretentious, because I think, again, I've argued so many times that like if you want Citizen Kane, like Mario to me is the peak of cinematic of gaming art. It doesn't matter if it's cinematic or not. I feel like everybody wants games to be more like movies, which is maybe one of the other things I don't like. That's the other thing with Metal Gear Solid. Like I've always been more into Half-Life style of that,
totally.
or Rainbow Six. To me, Rainbow Six is the first Rainbow Six where you're strategizing is a better spy story than any of the Metal Gear Solid games, because I made that whole story. It's emergent. Like that's what I want games to be.
It's like for me, what attracts me to it is like the ambition. Even if he doesn't pull it off, and it's just bad at times, it's the ambition that no, I'm gonna make this Citizen Kane level epic for a video game. And what's so cool about the new one is now it's seamless. Like it doesn't cut the game to watch a cutscene. It becomes like the camera moves from the character which you're playing. It becomes this like Alfonso Cuarón long take, and then goes back, into controlling the character
because
seamlessly.
That's just like and I saw that when I was watching the scene that you're showing. But it's like, I mean, that's like a technical thing. It's still just gameplay into a cutscene, like on like an actual.
But even like little things like how you can like zoom in the camera, and it's still like
look at girls' boobs,
or a guy's butt. To be fair, at the beginning. Of
oh my god! There's one
also people have been stuff like that. Like eco games do that. Like there's been many games that like you slightly control the cutscenes.
Yeah, no, I mean it's fundamentally the kind of stories that Metal Gear Solid tells are not the kind of stories that are best suited to games. I'm completely with you. Like I prefer Half-Life style. I prefer emergent storytelling like XCOM, or just stuff that happens emergently through gameplay. I used to be Metal Gear Solid was the game that made me for 10 years prefer the other kind of cutscene laden thing. But it just at the end of the day is like I can play Mario and feel really, really good about myself. Yeah. I play Metal Gear and I'm like learning things about myself. I'm like seeing myself reflected in another human being and seeing the ways that we differ and are the same.
That's so weird. That's like the exact opposite experience. Like I play Metal Gear Solid, I can like learn stuff about Hideo Kojima, and I play Mario.
Maybe you
need
to open your heart
this is
to Hideo.
No, it's like playing because like I feel like you learn about yourself. Here's what it is. Now this is super pretentious and academic, but like play is like a vital part of human like species and animals. Animals play. Like, young dogs, they play. Like it's a safe space to literally learn. I learn and like that's not true, because some of the stuff you can do in the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid. But to me, like a playground in something like Mario is, as weird as it sounds, like important to the human like species.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like that's why I believe about play. That's why sports are important. That's why stuff like that. And so games that make me feel like I'm exploring, like when I play a Nintendo game, like I feel like I'm exploring a forest that I could do so many things in, and it's not dangerous. So that's why it's play. That's why it's not an adventure. It's not me going out and like fighting wolves or something like that. And like Metal Gear Solid games always feel like I'm pressing buttons. Right. Like I'm pressing buttons, I'm doing these things, and I'm being shown a cinematic. A Nintendo game, it's like I've been thrown into this amazing space to play, and within that play, I learn about myself. Even if it's just about my what are my instincts when I always climb the highest thing, right? Like things like this, like that's valuable to me. That's why I love that's why I love that stuff. It's the kind of Mario Damacy. It's like I appreciate and I love the ambition of Metal Gear Solid. I wish it's the same reason why like Uncharted will never be my favorite game series, even though I really like it. It's like cool. It's a pretty good game and a pretty good movie. Great, as opposed to I don't know.
All right. Well, look, we have to wrap it up. And by the way, play is always safe, unless, of course, your dad's telling you that you got to get down to the basement to learn something that you've been doing wrong.
That's not play anymore.
That's not play anymore.
That's dark.
That's external.
I know.
You missed this part of the conversation.
It's still dark, but not as dark as you think it is.
Anyway, I think we are well over time,
Yes,
so
sorry
I'd like
for
to
that
thank everybody here. Thank you, Benji. Thank you, Jon Karmen, Matt Arnold.
Look, do you
Anthony
think
Burch.
because Metal Gear Solid like Snake is the one character we've gone?
He's not the one character.
This should be your next book, though. It's like, is Snake the perfect is it the hero the video game industry needed for 25 years? Like when it's done and he's done with 5, and then who knows what the industry does after that? Is like Solid Snake like the perfect representation of just the male
Super
industry.
teenagey, kind of pervy.
That's kind of the first chapter of the book.
Yeah?
Yeah, kind of.
I should
No,
read it.
yeah,
I'm gonna
I
read
can
it.
vouch for the book. If you even have a slight interest in Metal Gear, you owe it to yourself to read this book. It's fantastic.
And you can find it on Amazon.com or BossFightBooks.com.
BossFightBooks.com.
All right, check it out.
Awesome.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for your academic insight and boob jokes. Thank you, Jon Karmen, for your love of the game, and Matt for your general indifference to it. Until next time, Benji Dog, Mixed Match producer. See you guys all later.